What's up, everybody? It's Goobums back with another comps video. I'm actually doing pretty well on the ladder right now, reaching all the way up to rank 5, I believe, recently, currently rank 7. And I figured I have a pretty good grasp on the meta, so it's time to put out some comps videos. I'm actually running a giveaway for CHIBI YONE, and if pretty much that's something you guys are interested in, I'm going to be talking a bit more about it at the end of the video. So if you guys are interested in that, yeah, just stick around until then. But otherwise, yeah, let's just get into the video. Today, we're going to be talking mostly about reroll comps. I have another video that's either came out already or is coming out soon about like kind of level 8 comps and kind of standard comps, and that's also going to be worth watching. But yeah, this is just about reroll comps. So the very first one is the strongest comp in the game, or one of the strongest comps in the game, and it's reroll Gnar. This is not something that you guys haven't seen before. It's played the same way it's always been. So if you guys actually played before the B patch, which came out about like a week ago, but like one day after the A patch came out, this comp was actually unplayable for a bit just because Ghostly was bugged. But for the most part, this comp hasn't changed since the last time I've talked about it, or since the last time you guys have seen it. It's really just the exact same thing. You're playing around like Vertical Triad, Gnar, and Kindred carry. There is something to talk about with this comp since the last time, is that because they added all these new worn items and all these new like support items into the game, this comp actually got a lot stronger. So if you check the stats, but even if you guys have played, Gnar is actually the best user of like a lot of the new worn items that came out. Off the top of my head, it's just it's going to be Silvermare Dawn or Silvermare something, Corrupt Vampiric Scepter, and Death's Dance is another one, and Mittens is the last one. I actually don't really know what Mittens looks like. Oh, it's here. That's Mittens, and this is Death's Dance. But Death's Dance we already all know about. So all 4 of these Gnar items are best in slot right now, and it actually makes it so this comp is even stronger than it used to be before. I think even at the highest levels of play, you're not going to be seeing everybody super familiar with the new Orn items. I think given enough time, I'm going to be releasing a tier list on them soon and like how to play them, kind of guide. But until then, we're just gonna have to like work with these comps videos. So yeah, pretty much all 4 of these items are extremely broken on Gnar. I think honestly, Gnar best in slot is going to be like some combination of all 4 of these items, but realistically that's not going to be the case. So obviously most of the time we're building something like BT QSS Titans, and then Kindred is using blue buff Morello and Shiv. Another thing is that Kindred's also the best user of Lichbane, so if you get Lichbane, it's extremely strong on Kindred. It's another reason why, once again, this comp actually got a slight buff, and why Portable Forge is going to be something that's really kind of like interesting to play with this comp, either in the augment or like sometimes there's going to be a Portable Forge Galaxy where they give you an artifact at the start of the game. But yeah, this is pretty important. Otherwise, just playing standard stuff. Mulch is insane, obviously. That's always been the case. Dryad Crest is also insane because eventually you're going to be capping out with the 0-6 Dryad. Dryad Crest ideally goes on Kayn, but can go realistically on anyone. You definitely need an Alawi in the comp, so go ahead and put that here. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty straightforward comp. I think something to note with Gnar is that his best in slot actually isn't double Titans. I noticed like even in Challenger, a lot of people are just like hard greeting like BT Titans or like BT Titans +1. Realistically, his best in slot is going to be like BT +1 and or like BT Hodge +1 double healing, but realistically that's not going to be like that common to be able to get, just because it's difficult to get like that type of item economy online. But otherwise, yeah, you can just fill it out with BT Starax Titans QSS. Even IE and Giant Slayer in a pinch is fine. Certain tank items, like I think if your lobby's like predominantly playing AD, then something like Bramble is really good. Likewise, if your lobby's predominantly playing AP, I think even like Declaw is actually really good as well. These are like not items that I find like anyone's really building on Gnar, but like I think they're perfectly acceptable. And if you guys actually like encounter this, say you're playing like Kai'Sa or Ashe and you're playing running into like a Bramble Gnar, you'll find that the Gnar is like pretty much unkillable, and he's still going to be doing more than enough damage to kind of like run through your team. They did nerf 6 Dryad a bit, so like maybe this comp did not get like strictly buffed, but for the most part, like some of the stuff that you got, some of the resources this comp got is actually like really good, and some of the support items that go well with this comp, such as like some of the new ones rather, such as like Knight's Vow, and obviously the old ones such as like QSS are still really strong, so support items are still really strong for this comp. And just before we get into the next comp, I want to say if you guys like the content, please subscribe and leave a like, and leave kind of like a comment down below on either feedback or something else you guys would like to see. And yeah, on to the next comp. So the next comp we have Janna. This one is pretty straightforward. I think I've never actually talked about this comp on my YouTube before, just because I think for the most part it wasn't a top 5 comp, right? But right now, because the reroll comps are limited and this comp has gotten stronger relative to the meta, I actually think this comp is worth talking about. And because they actually buffed a lot of the augments that you can find yourself taking with this comp. So both Dragonlord Emblem and Sage Emblem, which are otherwise like fairly weak augments, got buffed to give you a Diana, both of them. So Dragonlord Emblem gives you a Diana plus Janna, so it's something to worth note. And Sage Emblem gives you both a Zyra and a Diana. Key to that is that they both give you a Diana now. And so if you get those augments, you pretty much are off to the races with this comp. This comp is like fairly straightforward once again. You're just building like standard AP key items on Janna, Shojin, Deathcap, and Nashor's being her best in slot, and you're building tank items on Diana. Zyra's getting her extra items, you're picking Red Kale, and this is your standard level 6 board, and you're really just rolling for these 6 units. On level 6, 3-2, standard reroll stuff comp. Soraka goes in at level 7. So something to kind of like think about with this comp is that like I see a lot of people building a like prioritizing anti-heal. I think in this comp specifically, anti-heal is not that important just because Zyra provides enough of it so that like you don't have to rush it. That being said, red buff is a really good replacement for Nashers. And another thing about this comp is that people like think about it very much like a stall comp, but I really don't think this comp is much of a stall comp. It's like very much like a burst comp instead. So I see a lot of people building like Archangels on Janna, which I don't think is very good. I think it's really bad for your item economy because Tier is building a lot of Diana items. Tier is building like Zyra items after you finish your Janna items. So it's like much better to build Deathcap. That being said, Rod is still really good for your item economy because it builds Spark. Obviously, it builds a lot of other Zyra items as well. And it can also fill in for this Nashers if necessary. But it's just Deathcap, I think, is the significantly better item on Janna to begin with over Archangels. So yeah, that's like a mistake I find a lot of players are making. Otherwise, this comp, yeah, it's just roll on 6, try to hit. Once you kind of like hit like 7 or 8 to Jannas, say you're like, you have 5 Dianas, it's probably better to just push 7, put in Soraka, and then try to finish rerolling your comp on 7 for Diana 3, just because Diana 3 really does hold this comp together. That being said, if you have like 9 Jannas and you have like 4 Dianas, then maybe Diana 3 is not something you go for, and in that case, you just push levels, try to go level 9 and cap around Rakan, Lee Sin, and Wukong. This gives you Heavenly and Sage, so it's really, really strong. Nico can actually come out. I know it gives you Arcanist and Heavenly, but once you have this package online, it's just stronger. Obviously, if you have a Fawn or like level 10 or something like that, then Nico can come back in, but realistically, if you're going level 10, then there's going to be a better unit to play than Nico. It's still pretty strong, but even like a Lissandra at that point is going to be significantly stronger. But once again, this is just one of your cop-out options. The next comp we have is Kog'Maw Reroll. We've seen this comp before, but it's just come back into the meta, and it's quite strong. It's unclear exactly why this comp has gone like stronger when it didn't really receive any direct changes in the most recent patch, but I wanted to just mention it, just want to mention it just because like I really do think it's quite powerful if you have the spot for it. Something you'll find with this comp is that it's one of the more item dependent comps in the game. I think like in like historically speaking, that's just true for reroll comps in general, but this comp specifically for some reason is like so item dependent that I would say like if you don't have like really strong item starts, even if you have like 3 Cho'Gaths or like 3 Kog'Maws at the start of the game, I wouldn't commit hard to this comp just because you can build a board around like Kog'Maw, Cho'Gath, Nico in the early game and still like play for streak or like play for strongest board and like find a way into like finding a different comp later. But because this comp actually does work well, if you have the spot for it, I think it's really, really strong. So the best in slot Kog'Maw is blue Nashers plus either Gunblade or JG. The stats show that Gunblade is better now, but it's once again, it's unclear why Gunblade has gone better than Jewel Gauntlet. Jewel Gauntlet has historically been better, but that being said, it doesn't really matter. Cho'Gath really is just your Spark and general tank items. I think Cho'Gath tank items are a lot more specific than it might seem. So like historically with most tanks in TFT is that like you can just build like any tank items and kind of get away with it. But when you're playing a reroll frontline tank, having like best in slot items on him actually matters a lot more. So like once again, I would not be playing this comp without like a blue or a tier rod, maybe bow or belt start, just because like this comp uses so many of certain types of components. Like you ideally you want to have like 3 or 4 tiers, at least 2. Like this comp is not even playable without blue buff, and then you want to have like a lot of chains and a lot of cloaks for Cho'Gath items as well. And then this comp doesn't like Kog'Maw doesn't even do any damage without Nashers, so that's like bow and belts are also pretty important. The only real augment I would force this comp with is too much candy, but once again, like if you don't have the items for it, say you have like sword, belt, I don't know, sword, belt, rod, I would not be taking too much candy to play Kog'Maw, just because without that tier, it's just going to be really difficult to find that blue buff. I've played this augment with this comp multiple times where I'm just playing the comp and I can't find my blue buff, and Kog'Maw 3 without a blue buff is like a Kog'Maw 1 because he just doesn't do any damage, and then like Cho'Gath 3 without like really good tank items is like a Cho'Gath 2 because it doesn't tank anything. I don't know, it's just really tough. But otherwise, this comp is extremely straightforward. You're just hyper rolling on 4 down to 33 gold to hit as many Kog'Maw, Caitlyn's, Cho'Gath, and Malphite's as possible. And then you go 5 and you slow roll above 50 for Kog'Maw, Caitlyn, Cho'Gath, and Malphite. The most important ones obviously being Kog'Maw and Cho'Gath. A little small tip with this comp is that you don't actually have to hit all your 3 stars immediately. I think obviously Kog'Maw and Cho'Gath are by far the most important. But say you have like 7 Caitlyns, you just hold every Caitlyn until you get to level 8 or level 9, and then you put in Hui, and Hui will give you 1 Caitlyn per turn. So obviously after 2 turns, you'll hit a Caitlyn 3. That being said, like even if you're level 8, it is possible to hit Caitlyn. So it's like if you just hold 7 Caitlyns, eventually you'll be able to probably upgrade it anyway. And then just capping around as many mythics as possible. Generally speaking, you do want to be hitting 7 mythic if you can. Obviously it requires level 9 without a spat, but yeah. I think this comp is pretty straightforward. So, oh, and Mythic Crest goes on Caitlyn. That's like the last thing to add. And yeah, otherwise there's not really too much to talk about with this comp. Next up, we have a new comp. It's one of the stronger reroll comps for sure, and I think there's like so many different ways to play it. I almost wanted to put it in the other comps video instead, just because it's not strictly speaking a reroll comp, but I think predominantly, especially for lower levels of play, you're going to be looking at this kind of like a reroll comp, but I'll be kind of like talking about the different options you can take when you play this comp. So this comp's just Alune reroll with vertical Umbral. All of these augments, all the Umbral augments are doing really well in the meta right now. So that's Wrath of the Moon, Umbral Crest, Umbral Crown, and even Midnight Siphon, something that's like a little bit of adjacent to this comp, but like in Midnight Siphon you're playing like vertical Behemoth Umbral anyway, so it kind of like plays into it. But yeah, pretty much you're just predominantly prioritizing Alune and Sylas items. It's a little bit tough to get the itemization for this comp just because Alune and Sylas are both using a lot of rods, but Alune Bis is Shojin Morello +1. Doesn't really matter what the last one is, Archangels is Bis, but Deathcap obviously JG, it doesn't really matter that much. And then Sylas, as per usual, you're seeing Spark Crown Guard, but just Spark plus tank items is also really strong. This comp is not running Sage like the kind of like the other Sage Sylas flex comp, so Sylas is lacking a little bit of healing. So in this comp, BT is slightly better. It's not a good item on him, but it's a lot more acceptable. And because the rest of the comp is not really using swords that well, except in a scenario which I'll talk about in a sec. But yeah, BT is generally okay on Sylas as like a random item you throw on him. You don't always have your Bis, so it's acceptable. But otherwise, just tank items is fine, and then you're just playing vertical Umbral. And if you get a, you're pretty much always playing around 6 Umbral with this comp. Obviously, like 9 Umbral if you can, but that's barely worth talking about. But you're playing around 6 Umbral, and you want to be Umbraling Kayn, and Aurelia is probably the strongest combinations of them, and that they're going to be your AD item holders. And obviously, Aurelia is going to be your max cap. So Aurelia works really well with Umbral because if you guys don't know how Umbral works, it just pretty much gives the Umbral units that are sitting, that have the Umbral shield and execute. And Aurelia's damage instances are so frequent that the execute will proc like very close to, pretty much like no unit will be like staying above around like 12% HP and not getting executed, or in this case it's like 25% HP and not getting executed. So Aurelia's really good. Also gives you armor shred, so if you're playing around Kayn already, it's really strong. Darius also gives you duelist, so it's really easy to fit Aurelia in. Another cap is like Azir and Ornn. I think Ornn you should be playing regardless, but Azir is also pretty reasonable. Gives you Invoker, doesn't really do anything for your Alune, but it also gives you Dryad, and Azir is just a pretty strong unit in general. I think Hui in this comp specifically is a little bit weaker, just because all your units are shielded. So on Hui's first ult, especially if you have like a Shojin or an adaptive, like a mana item of some kind, Hui's first ult is not getting any of the healing value that you should be getting with Hui. So it's a little bit weird, but still obviously good. Like if you have a Hui 2, you're going to play a Hui 2. This comp, I mean, it's really strong. It's probably one of the strongest comps in the game right now. It's just the other way to play it is like it's not really reroll. You just play a Alune 2 with 6 Umbral and you fast 9 for like obviously upgraded legendaries. This thing 2-star, this thing 2-star. I mean, Ornn's a legendary, let's be real. This thing 2-star, Rockon 2-star. Set 2-star, and yeah, you're off to races that way. I think that's like a perfectly fine way to play this comp, but you just play it by ear. I think you're still going to level 8 to reroll for this comp as opposed to level 7. I see a lot of people still rerolling for this on level 7. They're going for like Yone 3, Alune 3, but you have to understand that Yone 3 is functionally useless, so you're really just rerolling for Alune 3, and then if you're rerolling for one unit, it's not really worth it to stay low level, especially because Alune 2 is really strong as is, and you need access to like Sylas, Set, and Aurelia. It's just not worth staying at level 7 for this comp. I think if you stay at level 7 for this comp, your results are going to be very mixed. And yeah, until the last comp, we have Bard. This is a comp that you guys have seen before, but it has been out of the meta for quite a while now, except the new patch actually gave this comp a lot of, I guess, juice in the form of the new Ornn augments. So the thing with this comp is like, I don't know why specifically, outside of like a couple small buffs, that this comp like really introduced itself back into the meta, but some of the new Ornn augments are like, Ornn items are extremely strong on this comp. So I guess the problem with this comp really is that like, it's the most item specific augment in the game. So pretty much Bard is not functioning really well without double Rage Blade Gunblade. The exception to that is this new Ornn artifact is Wit's End. It's completely broken on Bard and it's completely useless on every single other unit in the game. I don't actually know which item it replaces in these three. I think it's technically fine to replace anything. It makes sense that it replaces Rage Blade just because it gives so much attack speed, but it's hard to say if that's exactly the case. I think like Wit's End's better than any of the single items. It's just like difficult to understand exactly what his bis is if you already have Wit's End. That being said, I think you'll probably be fine with either. And then once again, like the item dependency of this comp can't be like understated just because like Bard's bis specifically already requires 3 rods and 2 bows. Bow being the most common item take in the game right now, at least on carousels, and Rod being another really strong component right now, just because AP is stronger. And then Tahm Kench items are also pretty specific. So similar with like I guess the Cho'Gath comp I spoke, or the Kog'Maw comp I spoke about earlier, is that Tahm Kench actually needs very specific tank items to be like to have like max efficiency or efficacy rather. Just because like when you're rerolling a tank, you're just going to have really good items for the tank to actually do anything. And then this is like a handhold comp where like TK and Bard kind of like live forever. And then like Bard's Gunblade is healing the TK, so then like neither of them can really die, and then you're just trying to go infinite. And then another thing with this comp is that you got 2 of these new Aron artifacts that are actually insane on Tahm Kench: Forbidden Idol and Innervating Locket. I believe Forbidden Idol is like the truly broken one. I think if you're opening Portal Forge on 2-1 and you hit Forbidden Idol or Wit's End or Innervating Locket, you can just hard force this comp. But Forbidden Idol, once again, is like the truly broken one. You're gonna like regularly see TA3 with like 18,000, 19,000, 25,000 HP, are all numbers that I've seen multiple times already this patch. If like those are not exaggerations. Talisman is another one. Talisman of Ascension. This item actually got B-patched to make it like not that good anymore. But in this comp specifically, because Tahm Kench lives for so long, it's actually quite good on him. That being said, it's like it's only okay. It's incomparable to the other two. But yeah, once again, I really do need to probably put out another video talking about like every new one artifact that got introduced, because there's so much complexity added with them that like I think a lot of newer players really do get confused with them, and it's really difficult to understand exactly like how to make use of some of these new resources that we're getting, right? So yeah, that's the comps video. As mentioned at the start of the video, I do have a giveaway running on my Twitter, and you can find my Twitter down in the description below, but it's about CHIBI YONE. I also want to run another giveaway on my YouTube, and pretty much it's going to just have one CHIBI YONE available. The codes are available in every server, so it doesn't really matter what server you're on. Just leave a comment in the description below and you'll be qualified to enter. It doesn't matter if it's a story, just saying hi, providing some feedback, whatever you want to do. I'll just pick like one out of however many comments there are, and you'll get a CHIBI YONE. So if you guys are interested in that, yeah, just leave a comment down below, and I hope you guys liked the video, and until next time, peace.